What up, guys and girls? Another brand new video coming at you today. We are back for some more Race Spec F1 Esports Elite Series for Season 3 here in Tier number 2. We're here for the penultimate round of the season, round number 18 at the Brazilian Grand Prix. Here's the driver's standings. ACW's got a 63-point margin over Isaac Kush in the championship standings. It's 36 points in the constructors' standings, so I think pretty much the driver's standings is pretty much done and dusted. Well, yeah, I think it was done and dusted ages ago. So, but still minor placings up for grabs there at the moment. I didn't actually catch where we were in the standings, but it's doing okay-ish, I'd say. It's going to take me a while, obviously, because I haven't done one of these for quite a little bit. So, doing a voiceover I'm talking about on the video. But yeah, we're coming here to Brazil. Obviously, if you haven't checked out the previous video in the Elite Series, which was the United States, then go check it out. But if you haven't seen the recent one, the Pacific Series around here at Brazil, then go check it out, which was certainly an entertaining race to say the least. I was feeling somewhat confident after, I mean, didn't feel like it after the Pacific Series race, but after what I achieved in that race, I think it was like a spoiler alert now, I think I finished like P5 in the end. But considering sort of the pace we had, I felt like a good result was on the cards for this one. So jumping to second place there on our first flying lap with a 7.612.
Wear and tear on the wheel.
Didn't feel great. You could tell on that flying lap I actually made a few errors and missed a few apexes and made a few errors, or the errors especially at Descida de Lago, the exit of Descida de Lago. So it went again, I think, for a second flying run around here to see whether we could improve our lap time. We go purple in the first sector. But again, similar to what we did in the first run, just run it a little bit too wide, get a bit too much curb, and you just saw the back end lap loss there, big time. And again, through into turn 10, you'll notice, obviously, again, I missed the apex by quite a bit. So I thought after this run, well, if this run wasn't going to be good enough, I thought I may as well abort this lap and just come straight back into the pit lane to save a bit of tyres, just in case. You never know what it's going to be like. Sometimes with the tyre wear, if like a safety car came out in the race, you don't want to have a burnt out set of softs just in case for something along those lines for like a, 10 lap dash to the end. So as you can see there, that's where we are. We're dropped now to third now because players jumped into third place. And one. We've only got 8.
Oh my god, I just got session
9 runners, I think, this race. So not ideal, to say the least. I get it was sort of coming towards the end of the season as well. Yeah, as you saw then that Plevs actually has left the session, or he saw it was migrating host because Plevs is usually the host. So, but I think he got an error message, or his game crashed, one of the two, and obviously lost connection to the lobby. So he had to basically rejoin, which thankfully he did, as you can see right on cue, that he rejoins the lobby. But usually when it does that, especially if you're the host, it automatically give the hosting duties to somebody else in the lobby. So he was hoping it wasn't one of the international guys, because it probably would have been a little bit chaotic. Obviously, in this series, as we get very, very sideways coming out of the center S's, that was definitely not ideal there. So straight away I aborted this run, as just obviously getting out of everybody's way, just making sure I don't think there's anybody near us here. So we're just saving a bit on the tyres, and I think it was just also saving a little bit on the fuel as well. But I think we're going to show you this proper lap here.
Roscoe just did a 1:15 and it was the fastest lap. Oh, that's because I just joined.
Yeah, so we glitch happening when Plebs rejoined the lobby. They're thinking that I said the fastest lap for the 15, when I think the fastest lap's already like in the 7s. So there's a big glitch.
1:15 came up purple for me.
Okay. But you saw there coming out of Descida de Lago, it was a much, much better exit there. So it's going back on the hosting duties. I think, I heard they say Harry Tomato, I think Plev said, became the lobby host, which wasn't too bad. I think Harry Tomato's got some pretty decent internet. He was hoping maybe it was going to be Contrast. It was a lot better this time around coming out of turn 10. But again, just a little bit too early on the power coming out of there. As we go purple actually in the middle sector. But again, lose the back end quite a bit coming out of Jung Chao there. So it is going to be an improvement, but by how much? We dropped down to P5, obviously. You can see the guys behind I think Dre, in contrast, they're qualifying on the mediums. I think they're going to try and start the race on the mediums. So we do improve, but it still is P5, so not quite good enough that time around. What was the lap time? I'm just going to look on my notes here. It was 0.323 quicker. It was still, obviously, like I mentioned, P5 of 7.289. Yeah, you can see there. Yeah, well, I think it was 9 that was in the lobby because Alex Pato joined late as well. Might have had some connection issues or something. So, but you can see here, the race is going to be pretty much overcast and no rain forthcoming. So, yeah, it felt pretty decent, I guess. So in the dry conditions, this setup. So I thought, but this time around, I thought may as well just go hell for leather. Let's just go all out in this one. Pretty much got nothing to lose here. Like I mentioned, the championship's pretty much done. We're trying to get a decent position in the championship. Like I said, I probably didn't see. You guys and girls would have probably seen it with the results standing. So this is my fastest lap around Interlagos. So here we go, into turn 1. Center S's, get it nice and tight. Don't take too much curb. Run it out wide, not too wide. Manage to just keep it in the white lines out of turn 2. Now through Curve de Sol. Now to the back straight. DRS open. Now lining up turn 4, break it near the 50-metre board. Nice and tight. Don't run it out too wide, which we just ran it out a little bit too wide there.
Yeah, I'm watching.
But just got away with it compared to the first couple of runs especially. Hold it in 7th gear. Up the hill we go. In a turn, where are we up to? Turn 8. Nice and tight through here. Quickly shift up into 3rd, then back down to 2nd. Now shift up straight away into 3rd gear. Now fly it up into turn 10. Just try and touch this apex if you can. Try and not get on the power too early, which this was a lot better run coming out of here. Nice and tight through here. Can use the exit apron if you want, coming into Jung Chao, but I avoided it. So we get a little bit sideways again, but it's a little bit better this time around. But this time we're going to take the nice shorter run through the final couple of corners here. As we come onto the front straight, coming down to take the shortest run to the line. Didn't feel great, but it was good enough to go provisional pole for the lap time. But the first time I've been in the 6s, I think, this whole season. The 6.84.
Didn't feel great, but I'll take it.
Maybe there might have been a little bit more, maybe off on the table.
Roscoe Arm on pole position. Good on ya. Go, son.
Not often every day that you get a bit of a compliment from Contrast, so appreciate it. So, but unfortunately, it was only short-lived because ACW then went and put it on pole at a 6.68. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, there probably might have been a little bit more time left on the table. I reckon I might have been somewhere near close to maybe ACW potentially. As Dre just giving me the word there that we can now retire the car. So,
8 points for William.
but no, overall, not too bad. I qualified. Like I mentioned before, I've said this many a time. I think maybe a 10th maybe on the table potentially. But in the end, it's a front row of the grid, so it's not too bad overall. So ACW gets pole position once again. Then Plebs in 3rd place. Then Rhythms in 4th. Chain Gamwell
should have been
G-Force Dre in 6th. Obviously, he's on the hard compounded, medium compounded tyres. Same with Contrast in 7th. And then Herrick Tomato and Alex Pato.
Would have been stuck behind bloody banana whole race.
Not setting a time at all, starting from the back of the grid. So race strategy-wise, it says softs and hards, which is we're not going to do that. We learned that straight away in Pacific Series that a lot of people were doing the softer medium. So it's basically what we're going to do here. So yeah, you probably might have heard a little bit before then that I should have done this lap time in Pacific Series, in the Pacific Tier 2. Had I done that lap in Pacific Series, I would have, I think what Dre said as well was pretty much right. I would have started on pole, not 14th like where I was. I think I didn't even set a great lap time back then, but yeah, but like I said, like Dre said, if I'd set that lap time in Tier 2, that would have been starting on provisional pole. Then I wouldn't have been stuck probably behind Banana. I would have probably been going for that race victory. So, this is pretty much newer territory for us. I haven't had a pole in an F1 league race for ages. I was tantalisingly close, but we can get a decent result here. Podium is not out of the question in this race. Yeah, but like I said, there's probably a couple of guys that might be giving... Obviously, ACW may blow off in the distance, maybe Plebs as well. But it might be on, like I mentioned, for the podium. So we'll see how this pans out. So here we go. We're all set for the Brazilian Grand Prix. 5 red lights. Let's do it around Interlagos. It's a decent-ish start. The first part was not great, but the second part actually was pretty decent. We're going to possibly lead into turn 1. We have to break a little bit deep there. We just get in front of ACW. Thankfully avoided any damage all through there, but we take the lead of the race. This is exactly the spot we need to be. Now we just got to literally get into our rhythm straight away and try and maybe build up a gap, although running wide like that is not going to be ideal, to say the least. But, you saw their players had a pretty decent start as well, so they're pretty much, not much has changed in the mid, except this battle, except this position up the front here. Man, I'm all over the place with this voiceover. So we just run it a little bit deep there going into Jung Chao, but we just managed to keep ahead of us, ahead for the time being. But it's not quite 1 second, I don't think. I think it might be nearly close to half a second, potentially, the gap after the first lap. So standing lap time's like a 14.8 or something, or rather 14.9, somewhere along those lines. A bit hard with this preview screen as well, although I might have written it down in my notes, I'm not sure. No, I didn't actually. So here's our first track limits warning of the race. We can't afford too many of those, otherwise this track is pretty well known for a little bit of track limits as well. So especially the exit here at Jung Chao, if you run it, not Jung Chao, Descent de Lago, if you run it out too wide, obviously it'll get you a warning, especially, and this through turn 5 as well. That's also through the center S's. It's probably another spot. There's probably not too many others as we go purple again in the middle sectors. So we're doing all right pace-wise. Obviously, you can see the drive's not too bad out of the corners. But again, we lead another lap. But I knew this lead probably would not last for too much longer, as we will set a 10 something or other. Probably should have written this down actually in my notes, but I didn't in the end. So, but ACW is the quick man at the moment, so it looks like he's got some pretty decent pace. Now DRS is enabled, so obviously we're going to have to try and break this slipstream as quick as we can. But knowing these guys pretty well, they're akin to it, so they pretty much just follow. But we just hang off for now, and you can see I'm shifting up the 5th gear, just probably trying to conserve the rears a little bit, just trying to not get on the power too early. But you can see. Coming towards lap 3 down, we go to Jung Chao. You see it, like I was mentioned before, in qualifying. I didn't use that exit apron. I think the other guys behind me were probably using a lot more. So, but I was just taking the cautious approach because I didn't obviously want to spin out and have a decent result ruined. So, but here we go, down the front straight. I'm using every single bit of ERS I can, but I don't think it'll be too much use. As now Plev's actually setting fast up the race. And there goes ACW up the inside. Not really going to fight it too much here. And he gets that move done. So now Plez is going to be all over the back end of our car, of our Red Bull. So we get the DRS obviously of ACW, but he might just have a bit more straight line speed because we've pretty much run out of ERS here. Up the inside he goes. It's a little bit of a touch, but not too bad overall. But he gets the move done, and I knew pretty much it was going to be a game, set, and match for the race victory anyway. So these guys will just probably start to pull away. But basically the goal here was just to try and keep with these guys as much as we can through here, and then obviously keep within that DRS window as well. Stray's already complaining about the braking boards. It's always the case around Brazil that somebody always takes out the braking boards around here, so that's nothing new around this game, as ACW now shows his real pace now with fresh air. Didn't actually crash the lap time there, but he's pretty much flying away here. But we're just keeping narrowly in the DRS window, but it was probably not going to last too much longer. I'm using a lot of ERS as well. It's only just narrowly managing to keep it in that DRS window, but it was probably going to be a challenge from here on in to try and keep it in that DRS window. If I didn't run wide through there, Jung Chao might have just stayed within it, but obviously we just dropped out of it now, so that'll obviously give these guys a little bit of fresh air. So I'm using a little bit of ERS here to try and catch back up again, but probably think better of it and just, decide to maybe just conserve it a little bit and just use it when I need to. So the gap's pretty much consistent at the moment here. We've got a pretty decent gap. I think it's like 1.5 seconds back to Rhythms there in the Ferrari. So there's a yellow flag behind. For what we heard, Chain Game Wow's had a spin coming out of the center S's there. But let's go back to the replays of the start on board with Contrast. Obviously he's starting in the mid pack, so there's a bit of a guide there. So Harry Tomatoes on the softs and Alex on the medium compounded tyres as well. So there's not too many guys on the mediums. So there goes Chain Game well wide at turn 1. As Contrast just managing to hang on, keeping the pressure on there from Chain Game. I didn't realise Chain Game was actually going to make it, put a bit more effort in, but he just managed to hang on as he Rhythms trying to look up the inside of Plebs as Contrast goes in way too deep. And that's an easy move there. Back up the inside for Chain Game. Wow. See, Contrast got the overspeed here. Big time going to look up the inside and turn 6 thinks better of it there. I think probably the move was on there, but just maybe thought better of it there as
That behind me does.
now onto the front straight here into lap 2. There's who's that in the background? I think that's Dre up around the outside, which will turn to the inside here at turn 2. So it's not too bad overall. So he gets that move done very nicely there. Does Contrast will fight back here, no doubt. See what he's like going down here into the down the Retta Aposta straight. Got his nose in there, but not quite as Dre runs it a little bit deep as well. Pretty much does what Contrast did on lap 1, and I think he'll get the move done. Yes, just with a little bit of ERS used as well, so it gets that move done as well. So now back onto lap 5.
Can't go any faster.
I think, this is a couple of laps later on lap 5. So as Dre goes back up the inside, these guys have been pretty much stuck together like glue for most of this league racing season. I think they would do an exact same thing in Belgium, I know that, and there was probably a few other circuits that they were stuck together as well. I think maybe Italy might have been another one. But now you can see on the top left of your screen, Plev's got a 3-second time penalty.
Fucking warnings on my screen.
But obviously, since he's left the session, he's things not been showing up on the top of his screen there. So it obviously was a bit of an issue, but obviously got rectified when he just paused and unpaused the menu. But not really much happened between lap 7 and lap 13. As you can see now, the top 2 come into the pit lane as they'll go onto the medium competitor tyres. So we'll take the lead of the race back. The gap was pretty much stable behind. It was pretty much stable majority of the time anyway. I think it was like 2.5 seconds to Plebs and about 2 seconds to Rhythms. So here's Plebs in for the mediums. Pretty simple stop there for the Merc, and ACW you can probably just see in the foreground there. Obviously these guys will drop behind because other guys have yet to pit. There's the gap pretty much to ACW, so pretty much good stop there from the Williams boys, and they pretty much come out as they were. Now back we go to this battle group here. Back we go, Contrast and Dre. This might be on for the move here. As you can see there, obviously Plebs obviously into the pit lane, Contrast teammate, and yeah, pretty simple move there. That was.
I think it would have been overtaken.
For Contrast on Dre. Very simple there in the end. So obviously with the other 2 pitting, they'll put him up into P3. And Contrast is known to doing opposite strategies quite a bit actually during this season. So and he's got quite a few driver of the days throughout this season. So there's someone else has had a spin in the background. I think it was Chain Game Wow again had another spin coming out of around the Descida de Lago turn 4 and 5 area. So his race is really not having the best of runs at the moment. On to lap 15. We're pretty much doing similar strategy to what we did in Pacific Tier 2. As Rhythms now pits in. Pretty much, yeah, lap 15. So obviously now have a bigger gap now back to Contrast. So it's pretty much just myself as Chain Game Wow retires in the pit lane. So he's pretty much had enough.
I got a bit scared.
In this race, so only down to 8 runners now, but there's not too many soft competitor tyre runners left. But basically on this lap it was nothing left, and it was just me. So as Harry Tomato I think had peeled off earlier on, but I think we're pretty much coming in around the same time, if not 1 lap earlier compared to what we did in Pacific Tier 2 on a Tuesday. So in we come to the pit lane. Try and make use of every single bit we can. Probably just extra cautious, so I didn't want to get a pit lane, well, not a pit lane penalty, but a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So in we come. There's the Red Bull gangway thing. I did actually ask him to put the front wing, the aero down to 2 on the front wing, just because I felt like maybe it might have been losing a little bit of straight line speed, but whether this would work or not, it was anyone's game really. So we come out of the pit lane here. Now this will be pretty tight here. You can probably tell on the mini-map, that's the red dot there. That's actually Rhythms here. It's going to be pretty tight here coming out of the pit lane. In fact, a lot tighter than I was expecting, because there he is. Because remember, he was 2 seconds behind us before the pit stop, and he's done the undercut on us by about 2 laps. So Rhythms gets that spot into 4th place now. Obviously, sorry, where are we? Sorry, 6th place, 7th place in this race. Obviously, there's still a few guys left to pit. Obviously, the guys on the mediums still left to pit here. So now we're just got to get our head down and try and get this move back done here, because you probably would have realised in the Tuesday race, once you're stuck in a bit of a DRS train, although it's only myself and Rhythms, once you're stuck in a bit of a DRS train, not much you can really do about it. As you can see, we're trying to put the pressure on him down into turn 1, but not really the ideal passing opportunity here. But you can if you want to, but this is probably the ideal spot going down into Descida de Lago. So we've got the DRS run here. Obviously, he's got nothing to fight with, really, I don't think. So around the outside we go as we break deep, and up we go into 6th spot now, which will probably be effectively P3 in this race once everybody else pits. But this was going to be, I had a feeling this was going to be an epic battle. Well, actually, to be frank, I thought this was going to be me starting to pull away as we get our 2nd warning there. So we can't afford another warning. If we get another warning, that'll give us a 3-second time penalty. That's what we did not need in this race. So I think this is actually our fast lap of the race as well. We're staying on board for this one. But at this point in time, obviously, because there was obviously a tyre difference, I think, like I said, Rhythms pitted end of lap 14, 15 from memory. So there's like I pitted on end of lap 16. I think there's like a 2-lap difference between the tyres. So I thought at this point I might start to like pull away from him. But he's still in the DRS window. We set our personal best that lap with a 9.6. I think that was 9.613. So now pretty much we just got to get our head down and just try and avoid getting another warning there, because that may curtail our race and maybe a podium. So here's a replay on board with Plebs from a couple of laps earlier. Him getting past good mate Alex Pato there, and Alex doesn't really fight it too much. Obviously, different strategies. Alex started on the medium compound tyres, and he gets it done. There was a bit of a lag spike there, I think, because Plebs was streaming. So it's
He's trying to hold me up.
until lap 20 now we go.
No, he won't, man.
I think Alex had come into the pit lane from memory, so... Or somebody coming in a bit... No, sorry, I'll take that back, no. Getting a bit ahead of myself there, but obviously Rhythms was keeping up with the pace here at the moment here. Like I was saying earlier, I thought I was going to maybe pull away into the distance here, but no, Rhythms actually had some pretty decent speed here. So maybe going down on the front wing probably wasn't ideal, as now Alex pits at the end of this lap, so now that's pretty much P4. Actually, I'll take that back. Somebody did pit. I think it was Dre, as he says the fast lap of the race now on a set of soft competitor tyres. I was a little bit cautious about Dre, whether he'd make some speed on me later on in this race, but we've got a good margin. I think 7 odd seconds back to Dre between myself and Rhythms. You can see here is now Shane Ganwell has left the session. Now Contrast pits in, so that'll now put us back into effective P3. And now this is pretty much the effective fight for the podium, barring, of course, that anybody, the other guys on the softs, both Contrast and Dre, don't catch up. So we'll see Dre will get in front of Contrast for the time being. That's, of course, Contrast will have the speed to burn a little bit later on, but we're just hanging on at the moment here. This was an epic battle, to say the least. This comes Contrast into the pit lane. Pretty much simple strategy here, all on his own here. Nobody else in the pit lane. Like I mentioned before, I think he dropped in behind Driftfall's Dre. So, and like I said, lap 23 now. This battle is still going on for the podium. So we've pretty much got a bit of a battle going on here, which, to be honest, I wasn't really expecting here. But I think we're going to have to fight this one pretty hard here if we want to maintain this podium position. One little slip up, like I said, pretty much from either of us is going to be, might be cautious here as we lose the back end quite a bit. Took maybe a bit too much curve coming off the exit there. We just maintained ahead of Rhythms for now, but like I said, like I mentioned, one little error could cost you big time here. Whether was what you saw then, or whether another warning for a time penalty, which obviously I'm one warning away. I'm not sure where Rhythms is at in this race, so had to really be extra cautious and obviously just trying to keep in front of him. You can see he's right all over the back of us here. And into Jung Chao here.
Looking good, Roscoe.
As Plebs obviously saying looking good, but probably wasn't the ideal time to chat, because obviously I got Rhythms right all over my rear end. So I had a feeling this was probably going to be inevitable here, that obviously with the DRS he's going to have a bit more straight line speed here, and up the inside he goes. So now he'll take third place up here. Not much really I can do about that one at all here. But no, nothing. Nobody in front of me. Well, the gap 5 seconds in front back to up to Plebs. Pretty much nothing I can do here. So now I'm pretty much going to try and do what Rhythms had done to me, of being stuck behind me. So obviously I've got the DRS. I might have to maybe save a little bit of ERS as well, just sitting behind him for the time being. And you can see the gap's just, you know, toing and froing a little bit here. I think it was out to 7/10. That was second here. I think it got nearly out to about 9/10. So I was a little bit worried that I'd lose the DRS, but we just managed to keep within it. But Rhythm's had pretty decent straight line speed here. Obviously, if this sort of continues on, obviously we'd obviously gain it back a little bit in the DRS straights. But this is so critical to just not drop out of that 1 second window. If we dropped out of the 1 second window, then that was pretty much curtains for P3, unless a mistake or something happened in front of us here. But this is pretty much just a constant thing for the next few laps, to say the least. So it's just literally toing and froing. You can, like, what is it? Cut a knife between button. No, what is it? I don't know what the saying is really, but this was just pretty awesome, to say the least. I mean, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't really expecting to be battling with Rhythms too much, but you know what? He actually gave me quite a decent fight here, and you know, we got to be, like you said, always got to be up for it in a league race. Doesn't matter whether you're fighting for, like, maybe further down the positions or even for a podium. You're still going to fight and give everything you've got, especially in this car. It doesn't matter whether you got different wings or not, or whatnot, aero-wise. You're still going to keep pushing on. That probably made no sense at all here, but you see, like, again, we just sort of, we always maybe lose it a little bit in the second sector, but we always gain it back at the end of sector 3 and 1, obviously in this section here. So still getting the DRS. Obviously we're just conserving ERS on these straights here, because obviously being stuck in the DRS, it sort of helps out a little bit here. So, but we just use it a little bit from time and time again. Just probably near towards the rev limiter there, but now closing in a little bit closer. I think this is probably the closest we've come back to Rhythms for a little while here on lap 28. So I think I'm going to show you maybe a couple of laps here to show you the differences, maybe in the sort of maybe the style and maybe the different setups we've probably got. You see again the drive out of the corners for Rhythms is actually pretty decent. So I knew I had to be up for it in this one, to say the least. I don't really know where I was gaining a lot more than he was. So I think probably more sectors, maybe it's a bit hard to tell really, but you obviously just got to knuckle down and just, you see I'm using a lot more curb there. I'll turn it a lot earlier compared to Rhythms, and you can see he does a little bit wider compared to me around turn 9, and again through turn 10 I use a little bit more curb compared to Rhythms. He just loses the back end a little bit here, so it's just starting maybe to feel the pressure a little bit here. So we just got to try and get a decent run out of here, which is, this one's not too bad to say the least, but again, I think the drive may have saved him a little bit. He might have been using a bit of ERS as well, because obviously no car in front of him can't have the DRS, so we're just keeping keeping the pressure, as Jeff's already telling me to get back to wanting to pit again for the softs, which was definitely not the plan. We're going to the end of this race. Gap behind was about 4 seconds, I think, back to Dre, so obviously we knew we had to keep on fighting Rhythms, but not fight too hard, otherwise we probably may lose a spot to maybe Dre if he catches up on the softs, but he might become under attack from Contrast a little bit later on. But again, going up the hill, we're just giving out absolute haul here, and this is what you need in league racing, just giving absolute 110% no matter what. And coming through into Zhong Chao again, I think we're narrowly close out of the 1 second window as well, which we just managed to keep in. I think it might have been about 9/10 actually, but again, we just managed to keep within that 1 second window, and it was just, he could not put a pin somewhere. I don't even know what the saying is, to be honest. If you get a little bit sideways coming off the curb at the center S at turn 1. Again, we're just not really quite close enough to go for a move here, but you just had to just keep pushing. That was pretty much the goal here. I just had to keep pushing, because anything can happen really. You just can't put the pressure on somebody to make an error. It's always could be a game changer in this one again, as we'll probably we'll spend another lap on board here. again, we're just probably one of the I'll get my words straight in a minute. It's apparently the pit window's open, which we're definitely not doing again. So, again, the gap behind is pretty much stayed stabilised at the moment, and well, the gap at the front I think is pretty much the same as well. But this is just absolute league racing, giving it 110%. You know, and I know Rhythms pretty well, obviously, from doing this side of league racing, well, joining the Elite Series as well. Pretty good hard racer. He's had his mixed share throughout the season as well, so had these good results and a few bad results here, so this will be a pretty decent result here. You can see how much I make up going into turn 8. So obviously he might maybe gain a bit more in Sector 2. Obviously the drive, he gets a lot better drive out of the corners compared to me, so obviously I'm shifting up a few gears a lot earlier compared to he is, so you can see actually he's not using the extra apron there, the AstroTurf. They're like sort of like I'm doing, so there's only like a few guys that are using that, so probably just being a bit more cautious so they don't maybe spin out and well, not cause a safety car, but damage a decent having a decent result. So again, it's just taking a little bit too much curve. You literally had to keep on pushing. Doesn't matter how bad the tyres are going to be. I knew sort of Rhythms tyres would probably maybe start to die off as well a little bit later on, but you just could not. You just could not keep your eyes off this battle here, because I think this was one of the pretty much the closest battle going on here, besides the guys behind us. Obviously, Contrast, I think, is slowly catching up to Dre. I think ACW's got a pretty decent gap over Plebs there as well, but I think this, like I said, this was pretty much the closest battle of the race. And so you just couldn't take your eyes off it here as we just lock up a little bit going into turn 10. So we're showing you, obviously, a couple of laps around this place, just showing you the differences between myself and the Rhythms. I don't know whether it's driving style or what, or the just different setup wise, but you can see it again, the drives at this corner is not too bad at a Jung Chao. Again, I think this is, and again, another chance, a lot more closer to, that made no sense at all in that sentence, but getting a bit closer this time around. I think this is probably one of the closest times we've been to him coming through to Santa Esses. So might have a shot here. You can see that red light is obviously flashing in the back of the car, so that means he's obviously using a lot of ERS. I think it's under 10%. If you're under 10% of ERS, I think pretty much it's going to be similar to my car, obviously, because I think I'm under 10% as well. But this was actually pretty decent, to say the least. To say the least, this battle going all the way pretty much to the end here. So we just got to keep within this window here. If we get pretty close to Rhythms throughout this, well, Sector 2 here, or coming out of Sector 3, might have a chance. You're going into Sector 3 and maybe even Sector 1 here, but again, you can just see the drive out of the corner for Rhythms in a Ferrari is actually pretty decent here, so he's hanging on pretty well here at the moment. I think he's at a podium so far this season already. I'm not entirely sure. You can see the tyres are actually starting to wear out a lot more than I was expecting. Well, maybe probably because I came in one lap earlier, I think, compared to Pacific Series. So
yeah, in real life,
so obviously they'll start to wear a little bit as Contrast. I think now behind it's got past Dre. That's for 5th place. We'll probably grab a replay of that a little bit later on here. But again, it's not really quite close enough here. Going down into Loretta Raposta into Cita de Lago, so
yeah, in real life, the fuel
it just had to keep going. We just could not give up.
You see him set fastest laps on the last lap of the race.
Throughout this race, as we go back to Contrast, this is the replay with him and G-Force Dre. So this would be a pretty simple move, I would think. Let's see, obviously he'll get the DRS and see what the straight line speed's like.
I'm going to overtake him. I'm going to do it using lean.
Yep, I think he was actually using lean mixture as well, so he gets that move for P5. But I don't think he's got enough laps up his sleeve to catch us two in front of us here. But back to our battle we go here. We're pretty much on the narrow edge here. You know, nobody's giving an inch throughout this whole battle. No, I don't think we've got a single warning at all. Well, I haven't. I'm not sure about Rhythms, but you're just absolutely just driving the cars 110%, not giving up whatsoever here. But we come through Jung Chao here. I think I just made a little bit of an error. I dropped out of the 1 second window for the DRS, so that might be I think this may be it for the battle for third place. And I think
I'm gonna
as soon as I realised that, I think I knew it. That was pretty much it. But
Yeah.
we had to pretty much, well, obviously keep driving as best we can. But it's outside the 1 second window. That just gives Rhythms a little bit of breathing room now. And we've got to use a lot more ERS overtake around this place. Now as we get closer again. And a Jung Chao, as you can see, I think the tyres may be starting to wear out a little bit more. You can see that gap is just growing and growing a little bit more. So, as I said, I think from this moment on, I think it's just trying to throw out the white flag. Just give it my absolute. I've given my absolute haul here. I think I was absolutely spent after this one. I think the same can be said for Rhythms, but what more can I say really? GG's all round to the Rhythms. He just gave it. Would not give an inch of giving up that spot. Just drove the cars like we normally would, not giving an inch. Just no mistakes whatsoever. So ACW gets the race victory in the end there. And I think Plebs actually runs out of fuel, but she'll give Rhythm second spot because of Plebs' 3 second time penalty. So in the end, it's going to be P4 just narrowly missing out on a podium in the Elite Series. It probably would have had our first podium of the season, but so close.
33.
So close there in the end, but what more can I say really? Rhythms, if you're watching this back, mate, GG's all round. I think he said after this race it was probably one of the greatest battles he's had in league racing. And I mean, can't argue with that. That's probably one of the good battles I've had in league racing for quite a while. No surprise, Contrast gets driver of the day. Once again, I'm not sure what number driver of the day this one is, but
let's just all not qualify at Abu Dhabi and just let Contrast get pole, then he won't get driver of the day next week.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a good strategy, I think that was for next time out at Abu Dhabi, where we pretty much just don't qualify and we just let Contrast get a pole, so he does get another driver of the day. Because obviously, like I said, this is a common theme. He does the opposite strategy, and it somehow works out, and he always gets the driver of the day. So we'll take a look at the final race results. There won't be any championship standings because I don't think they were done after this race anyway. So ACW gets the race victory in the end, so just pretty much extends his championship lead. Pretty much it's already done and dusted, champion elect that he is. Rhythms gets P2, GG's to Rhythms all round. Cannot fault him. It was a great battle all the way through to the end there. Then he gets P2, which is a fairly decent result in the end. Plebs drops back to third, obviously, with that 3 second penalty. And us in fourth, Contrast fifth, Dre sixth, Harry Tomato seventh, and Alex Pato in position 8. And of course, Chain Game Wow, the only DNF of this race. As you can see here, look at all the lap times. So they're pretty consistent, I think, all around. Once we set that fastest lap up, our personal best on like lap 18, that was pretty much our quickest lap of the race. So what more can you say really? GG's to Rhythms. Once again, he had it all on a rope there at the end there. So cannot fault him. That was an epic battle all the way through. So if you did enjoy it, smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Go follow me on my social media channels. They're down in the description. Plus, go check out Spec Esports, all their social channels, YouTube, Twitch channels. They'll be down in the description as well. The Twitter and Instagram. And I think they've got a Facebook page as well. I'm not entirely sure. But go check them out. Links down in the description. But yeah, that was certainly an epic battle throughout this Brazilian Grand Prix. What will it be the case in Abu Dhabi for the finale of Season 3? You have to tune in next time for that one. But so until then, it is goodbye, and I'll see you all next time.